What is up, everybody? Thank you so much to anybody who clicked on the video. I greatly appreciate that. Today, though, I do have something a little bit different from my channel. I'm going to be taking a look at my first ever SNES ROM hack physical cartridge in the form of New Super Mario Land for the SNES. So yes, you heard me correctly. This is Super Mario Land for the SNES, or rather, New Super Mario Land. And for those of you who are not familiar, this is essentially, as I can best describe it, a remake slash demake of the classic Super Mario Land for the Game Boy. If you guys have not played those games, I highly recommend it. The second one is probably my favorite Mario game of all time. It's truly phenomenal. But this is, of course, the first one here. I actually came across an interview on Nintendo Life with the people who made this game, and it was interesting to find out this originally started as just a Christmas present project for a few Nintendo fans. And the piece was nice. It was essentially just a little piece about, the thought process behind this game and what it took to create this game, and it was overall pretty interesting. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you guys want to check that out. But moving on to the physical aspect of this review, I've got to say, this has got to be the crispest, cleanest looking case I have ever gotten for a game before. I mean, truly, the camera does not do this justice. I don't have the best camera, unfortunately. And of course, I got my glary light in the back there. But this just looks so clean. Like I said, the camera does not do it justice. This looks absolutely amazing in person. I love how authentic this looks, You've got the Super Nintendo up there, which I love. You got the new slapped on, of course. This alleges you can have up to 4 players if you have the adapter there, which I, of course, don't have, unfortunately. But regardless, let's keep looking at the case here. We got New Super Mario Land, Super Nintendo on the side. Again, Nintendo, not actually an official Nintendo game, if that wasn't obvious. We've got a nice description of the game we're going to be jumping into on the back here. If you guys want to take a shot at reading that, you can. I won't bother reading that whole thing to you. As well as another of the couple screenshots here that we usually get on the back of cases. Again, the camera probably not doing this justice, but you get an idea about what we're going to get into. I'll, of course, talk a little bit more about the graphics once we jump into the game. All right, we'll go ahead and take a look at the inside here. Crack this sucker open. Get a nice look at the inside of the case here. And I also did notice this. This is my only gripe, is that this sometimes gets caught right there a little bit, but it does fit in there nice and snug otherwise. Not too big of an issue. We'll take a look at the game here, though. Of course, we have a very similar looking cover. I gotta say, though, and I do have my Mortal Kombat game here for comparison. In terms of quality, I think it feels genuinely like exactly the same. I mean, I'm rubbing these together, and they feel the same. I think this one's a smidge lighter than the Mortal Kombat, which doesn't surprise me. The insides of these are usually a little bit smaller than an actual Nintendo game. But other than that, I mean, it feels, like I said, it feels just like an actual SNES cartridge, in my opinion. I'm going to assume that this is a repo, though. All in all, though, I'd say the physical aspect is looking pretty good. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and slide this into the SNES, and I'll show you what it's about. Super Mario Land for the SNES, or rather, New Super Mario Land for the SNES. The new, of course, being the updated graphics, which is probably the first thing I want to talk about. Probably the most important thing that we'll talk about. Hopefully you see what I mean when I say remake slash demake. The graphics of this game resemble the Wii and DS era graphics, but obviously downgraded a little bit, and I don't mean anything bad when I say downgraded, because honestly, the graphics of this game are awesome. They are truly amazing. I know whenever I first saw this game, I thought it was just fake. It was like, that is Wii graphics apparently running on an SNES, and I genuinely didn't think it was possible, but obviously here we are playing it on an SNES, and it honestly turned out pretty good. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with how this looks. So if you've played the original Super Mario Land on the Game Boy, then you're gonna notice similarities right away. Whether it be the Super Ball flower, or the various different enemies you come across, or even flying around in the plane, or even maybe just the overall level designs, it's all there, and I'm leaning towards this game being a pretty faithful remake to the Game Boy. Now, that being said, there are a few things I did want to bring up. The first of which, as you can see here, there is a little bit of graphic overlap, with some of these graphics. Usually just when you butt up against a wall or certain blocks like that, there tends to be a little bit of graphic overlap right there. Not that big of a deal, honestly. It happens in probably almost every video game to some degree. It's happened especially in older video games. It didn't mess anything up. It really just made me feel like sometimes Mario is maybe just a little too big, or he looked a little too big, but again, didn't mess anything up, but I did want to bring that up though. Next thing I wanted to bring up was the power-up blocks. Sometimes, not every time, but sometimes they would act a little funky. They would either spit them out really slow, or they'd get stuck up top, and then sometimes they would even just shoot out kind of like a star would. And it felt a little random. Like I said, it didn't happen every time, but it happened enough that I felt I wanted to talk about it. I don't think that it really hindered gameplay at all. I don't think it screwed me over at any point. It was just kind of like a weird thing that I noticed. It didn't really mess me up, but I still felt like I should bring it up though. So the next big thing I wanted to talk about is the multiplayer. And if you were not aware, the original on the Game Boy does not have a multiplayer, so this is a nice little addition to the game. And I gotta say, the multiplayer works pretty good. I didn't really have any issues with it other than one time, me and my player too, we were both powered up and we were shooting our bouncy balls, and there were, kind of a lot of enemies on the screen, and there was just a few seconds of slowdown, but it corrected itself pretty fast, and that was really the only time I think we ever had any issues with the multiplayer. It runs pretty good other than that. The one thing I did want to bring up besides that was, in my personal opinion, this game is not necessarily designed to be two-player, so I felt at times, sometimes having more than one player kind of screwed me over, but maybe that's just my personal opinion. Other than that though, it worked great. You can have up to 4 players. I did not test that. I only tested the 2. I didn't have an adapter to hook up 4 controllers, but I used a wired controller. My player 2 used a wireless third-party controller, and everything ran smooth. I mean, it felt like a multiplayer Mario game, kind of like the Wii ones that felt similar to that, but everything works pretty good. All in all, I'm pretty impressed with how this game turned out. I think the unique style of graphics, as well as the addition of multiplayer, really helps this game stand out amongst other SNES ROMs, and even Mario ROMs in general. So if you've played the original on the Game Boy, I highly recommend you guys check this out. At the very least, check it out as a ROM. If you like it enough, maybe you'll consider adding it to your SNES collection like I did. Alright, that's going to do it for the video today, guys. I do want to take one more minute to shout out the creator of this ROM here, this very spectacular ROM, I might add. I'm going to be leaving a link to the article down below that I mentioned earlier, so feel free to check that out. I definitely recommend that you guys do. Also, if you guys happen to enjoy this video, you got anything out of it, maybe you like Mario, maybe you like New Super Mario Land, feel free to leave a like. That is greatly appreciated. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave those in the comments down below. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.